Welcome to Women's Health Unwrapped with me, Nicola Fondell, a weekly show empowering women to unlock the secrets of true health and vitality. Now, today I'm unwrapping those many thoughts that you have in your head that keep you very busy and often feeling very overwhelmed. Now, if I was to ask you how many thoughts a day, you may guess that it's quite a lot, but the number is phenomenal. It's said that we have about 60,000 thoughts per day and that 90% of these are repetitive. So today I am joined by a fantastic guest, Libby Langley, who is going to be sharing insights, inspiration, and lots of actionable tips that you can use to really think about how overthinking you are right now, quieten some of that noise, and change that hustle culture you are possibly pushed into because of how society is and how we as women are led to believe that it's by doing more that we'll create happiness. So in today's conversation, we're going to be unwrapping bravery, living with intentionality, not being afraid to be different. And one of the things I loved that Libby highlighted in this amazing conversation is self-empathy, being kind to ourselves, the importance of saying no, but also the importance of saying yes to the right things. So get ready to listen in to this brilliant conversation with Libby, because it's time to strip back and lay out the truth about why taking better care of yourself is the answer to the happy, vibrant life you're striving so hard to create. So, hi, and welcome to the podcast, Libby. It's great to have you with me today.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to explore this topic because overthinking, hustling, pushing yourself to constantly be switched on and do more is something that I know resonates with, I think, probably every single one of my listeners. But just to get us started, I'd love to know from you what your most impactful healthy habit is right now.
Really, the most important thing that I think it's taken me years to kind of get to this stage, years of working with people and years of, I don't know, running my own business and thinking about myself. But honestly, it's prioritizing your happiness. And that sounds really like wet and kind of flimsy. But if you're not happy in what you're doing in your business, in your life, with your partner, in the house you live in, or so, those are all things that you can change. And being happy, surely, is the most important thing in life.
I think we're all striving for happiness. Yeah, that's definitely the ultimate life goal, isn't it? So, what would you say is like one of the small daily habits you have, if you do have one, that's contributing towards the way you want to feel when it comes to happiness?
I think pretty much everything that I do contributes towards that. I work in quite a, well, I think structured yet unstructured way because it suits me. And the best thing that I've done really is kind of just listen to how I feel and how I think about things. And I mean, certainly, I talk about business a lot because obviously I'm a business coach, but with business, which takes a lot of our time and energy for all of us, it's, do I enjoy doing this? Is this worth me doing? And can someone else do this? So, it's kind of thinking of those things because then your time, which is a very precious commodity, can be spent doing something either that you enjoy more or doing absolutely nothing. So it's about how to utilize time, and I'm quite conscious with mine. So I think that's kind of I don't know if it's a daily habit, but it's certainly I'm always aware of. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like intentionality that's become a part of you. And actually, that does link very nicely to what we're going to dive into about overthinking and having that mentality of having to just do whatever comes up, whatever is asked of you, not giving it mindful thought and that intentionality around, is this something that aligns with my values, aligns with contributing to how I want to feel, and so on. And so, actually, I think that's really powerful. And I'm guessing that that's not always been a part of your identity and how you are, that that's something you've developed through your own personal growth journey.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I've spent many years being who I should be. fitting into roles, particularly before I started my business. I mean, it's 14 years this year, so I have to kind of dredge my memory banks for what it was like before. But in my jobs, I always did really well. I was always a high achiever. I always progressed quickly up the career ladder and all of that. But I was kind of someone else, I think, really. And in my last job, I worked for a college. I was a commercial development manager. I had a really good job, senior management role and team and all that. And my team used to call me the Ice Queen because I was kind of completely unfazed by things, very matter of fact, very focused and determined. And I have all those traits are true, but they're not my first presenting traits, actually, if I'm really honest with myself. And it took me a long time to realise that was a mask and that was an act. And I was diagnosed with as autistic ADHD a couple of years ago, and that obviously kind of really helped me go, so all this stuff you're doing, not really what you want to do, is it? And certainly at home, behaving in a completely different way to work. And actually over the years, having my own business has allowed me to just be a much more of a whole person, a holistic presented person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. And actually, I think that's a really good thread to pull out to open up this conversation more, because I resonate with that and actually would guess that many women are the same in that who they are. But I think there's two things. One is that at the high level, many of us aren't living authentically in alignment with the real person we are, because we've just, as you said, done the things we think we should do and become someone. And what I find is in midlife, those hormonal changes we experience result in many women questioning who they are and not feeling like themselves, because actually the way they've been isn't who they actually are at their inner core, who they are. So I think there's that huge piece. But then the other bit you touched on is that many of us are being different people in different situations with work and home, personal life, I think, being those two extremes and biggest parts, like compartments of our life, isn't it? And I know I was the same in corporate. It wasn't that I wasn't being authentic, exactly like you said, I acted the way that I was, as in I was very process driven, strategic. I was always very transparent, maybe too honest in that kind of workplace environment. But, I was all of those things, but actually there was so much as well that I had to conform to that wasn't a fit with who I am. And that caused me enormous stress and overwhelm, which was very impactful with the anxiety and mental health conditions I already had. So tell me a little bit about that with you, because that's a big part of your journey and experience to share with the listener today, isn't it? Around how trying to fit in and doing the things we think we should do as women and as humans in a workplace especially can really negatively impact how we feel and live.
Yeah, there's so much there, really, and it's only as you get older and wiser and more reflective and maybe angrier as well. I feel like us as, the kind of tail end of Generation X, and just, we do, and like you say, hormonal changes and all that. I do feel like a lot of people are really angry about the way life has been, which I'm all for. I'm absolutely all for things changing, but right from the start, I did well. I got a job that I shouldn't have got because I was too young for the car insurance that you needed for the job, but I still got the job. And they, so there were things where I thought, what, this is great. I don't know what the problem is. I've never had any issues being a woman. But you look back and it's like, oh yeah, there was actually that time that guy got a manager of mine, he got reprimanded for what they call sexual harassment because of kind of bullying in the workplace. And I was like, it's not sexual harassment, but because he was a man, because we were younger women in the team, that's how it was determined. You're like, oh, so you go through your whole career kind of fighting, but not realizing you're fighting because that's just the way things are, which sucks. And as well, I've always had this, so as well as all that, I've also had this real sense of right and wrong, a real strong, which I realise now is probably related to my autism, but a real strong sense of this is a fairness and justness. And that's a real part of who I am. And as I was, the catalyst for me starting my business, leaving my job, was that the targets that we were set, we achieved according to our figures, but according to the central figures, we didn't. And it was just not fair. And yes, there was a lot of money at stake. I lost out on a 10 grand bonus. My sales team, I don't know, 5 or 7 grand, can't remember. It didn't happen. And I absolutely lost my mind over it. I'd lost so much weight. I weighed just over 8 stone. I was tiny. I was incredibly stressed. And I can see now that I went through full burnout. And I remember talking to the principal of the college and just like really shouting at him. And he was a lovely guy. And he said to me, well, you're going to do my reputation no end of good here, going out of here in tears. He says, everyone will think I'm a really tough guy. And he was very sweet. He wasn't being misogynistic about it. It was very sweet. But it's like, you kind of go through all this stuff. And then starting a business off the back of that, not really knowing what I was going to be doing or how it was going to look, I kind of went into it with the 9 to 5 work hard hustle and was an immediate success and made loads of money and built a team and all this stuff. But the happiness wasn't there. So it was 10 years ago this month, May. Sorry, we're recording this, but 10 years ago in May that I made my team redundant and gave up my office and went back home. And actually that was the catalyst in my business for it being really successful and being really happy and really starting to present as who I wanted to be and how I really felt. So yeah, it's a funny journey, but it's kind of like 30 years of hurt, trauma and all that. And so it's no wonder that there's lots of things. But I think as women, we do go through so much more than men. And I try and explain it to my husband sometimes. I like, you don't know. Walking along the street, I would be fearful. He said, why? And I'm like, because there's other people on the street and you never know what they're going to do. And it's just, we carry all that with us all the time as women in the workplace, just out and about. And we're so used to it and it's so ingrained that I don't think we necessarily realise how much of an impact it has on our mental health.
And I think there's also a lot of pressure on women to fit in with other women, as a female. I think certainly like when we grew up without technology, I'm thankful that it didn't exist. It was still tough enough having the celebrities, the wave like supermodels, the media, back then it was waiting for your weekly. I used to get, was it More magazine and then Cosmopolitan delivered through the door from the
Heat magazine was another one.
I think I was a little bit older when that came out. I think I'm a few years in front of you, Libby. But I think like as women as well, certainly when it comes to work and our careers, there is that piece of, oh, well, she's there and I'm not there and I should be doing this. And I actually have an example that's just popped to mind when I was managing teams at Nike of someone who was a great performer. She was always so passionate and she was a single mother to 2 kids. And she had a good friend who also worked in the company who was single, who was advancing a career very quickly, who was making a lot more money than what she was. And she used to talk to me and say, but such and such is there. I should be there. And I remember having this conversation of like, but you aren't comparing apples with apples. That other person is at a very different point in their life. There will be a time when they have a family or a different relationship or life circumstances that mean their career perhaps slows down or changes gears, that kind of thing. And I think there's so much danger there to that pressure we put on ourselves, which creates these constant thoughts. What did they say, 60,000 thoughts on average a day we're having, and that is that noise in our head all of the time. And as you touched on, mental health is of course impacted by all of that, isn't it?
Yeah, hugely. And it's interesting the thing with careers that you said about there, and I know that's something that I've always thought, and I've certainly thought it a lot in my business is, I've been doing this a really long time. I've worked with, 6,500, maybe 7,000 people now over the years and spoken on stages and this, that and the other. And it's like, why am I not a millionaire? And, there's always that kind of, I should be more. But it's like, actually, well, I don't want that big business because that's how I started in my business. I built the team, I didn't want it. So I talk a lot in my own podcast with my clients about this kind of comfortable middle, or the power of being average, I guess. People are like, oh, can't say that. But it's like, actually, what's wrong? What's wrong with just being where you want to be? Why do we always have to strive for more and more and more? If we've got somewhere and it makes us happy and it brings us in the income that we want and we feel satisfied and nurtured by it, why isn't that enough? Why does there always have to be more and more and more? It doesn't make any logical sense. Yes, you need to continue to grow, of course, or you just get stagnant and all of that. But
Mm.
growth can be all sorts of things, and it can be slow, and yeah, it's weird. This push that you mentioned is just a weird concept. Because what if everybody got to the top? The top would stop being the top would be somewhere else.
Yeah, such an interesting way of thinking about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there about, you know, feeling like you always have to have more to
Mm,
get the happiness you want, or, and I wonder, like, for many women, I've talked about this in different ways. I feel like happiness is attached to having those things. It's
yeah, for
like
sure.
we think happiness comes from the job title or beating someone else to the promotion. Maybe it's not even about the money itself. It's the positioning of being in that level of authority in a business or running your own business. Or it is about the money, or it is about the type of home, car, holidays you have. I think there's so much what you wear. I think there's so much linked together that we strive for, believing that it's only by achieving it we'll then get the output, i.e., the happiness that we want.
Yeah, you're right, and I do think that people should, you know, it's really difficult because as women, you either have to. This is a massive generalisation, obviously, but you either have to work twice as hard to get to the top, or you never quite get where you want to be because you've taken a back step, right? And I know there's lots of nuances there, but that's broadest generalisation, right? But what if you make the choice to just go down the happy route? What if you say, actually, do you know what? I love my job, or I love my business at this level, and take away the kind of pressure to impress other people or to keep up with the Joneses, which is exactly what you
Mm.
said. It's, what if we all just thought, I'm just going to do what I want and I'll be happy with that. And then that extra energy that I'm not expending at trying to keep up with the Joneses or do what I should, I'm actually going to help other people or do some volunteering or, maybe give some donations to charity or do some kind of good rather than constantly striving just for, this kind of money for money's sake. And I love money, don't get me wrong. I love having it, I love spending it and all of this. But there are limits. I think there are limits of what I'm prepared to put in to get more. And so
Mm.
that's okay. I'm really
Mm.
comfortable with that. And it's not that I don't have ambition and I don't have drive at all. It's that I know when I get to the point where I'm like, I'm too tired for anymore. This is fun. Now I'm going to watch Netflix. I'm happy here.
So I think the challenge is getting to that point. And as I said, I really do see this and believe that part of the big shift menopause brings, especially
Mm,
that huge perimenopause season, is hitting that wall almost of in, how am I here? How do I feel like this? Like, why am I in this job or this career or this relationship even?
yeah,
Or like, how have I become the dog's body at home? This
yeah,
isn't what I want it to be like as a wife, partner, mother, or
yeah.
so on. I think I see that happening with so many women. It's like you're at a crossroads, and I think it's a amazing opportunity because it's forcing us to have to think about a reset if we want to make that happen. But
Hmm.
we don't or shouldn't be waiting for that to cause those shifts, because what I see is, obviously, I'm working with women who are really at almost rock bottom, who've often got to that point where it's a case of, I just can't continue the way things have been, often for 25, 30 plus years.
Hmm.
So how can we have these shifts in our thoughts sooner so that we aren't stuck in that overthinking, overdoing, hustling mentality that is often making us live with quite poor health for many, many years?
Yeah, we work with very, very similar people, but you work on their health, I work on their business. And exactly the
Yeah.
same thing. I say, if you're overthinking everything in your business, I help with that. And it's very, very similar. It's the point, reaching the point of just, I just don't know why things don't feel right
Hmm.
anymore. And so very, very similar to what you said there. And honestly, I think it's re-education and bravery that actually are the things that play the biggest part in this. So certainly, I mean, health is the same, business is the same, almost anything is the same. It's like, right, this is the path that you follow. These are the things that you do. This is how you become healthy, successful, wealthy, whatever net outcome is, right? But it's like, but what if you did it a way that suited you with your mental health, with your neurodiversity, with your physical health, with whatever it is that you carry, I suppose, or that is part of you? What if you did it differently? And that's not something we are ever taught, right? In school, we're taught formulaic ways of doing things. You go into a job, it's a formula, it's a process, it's a system that you follow, the 9 to 5, everybody knows it, out for lunch, home for tea, but what if it's just how our society runs, right? Okay, so there is a place for it. But what I say to people is, what do you actually want to do? How do you want things to feel? What's your passion? What do you really care about? What's your vision? What's your mission? What's your purpose? If you could just have it anyway, how would that be? And once people start saying this, it's like, so now we can reshape the business that you've got, or scrap it and start a new business, but generally speaking, reshape the business that you've got to actually fit what you want. And sometimes it's kind of really subtle changes. Sometimes it's just about different boundaries. Sometimes it's about going for a run in the day, which is not the norm that we're taught. It's little things like that actually make such a difference to life, that the business becomes more profitable and more successful because of the happiness factor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think whether you're running your own business or you're in employment, this is applicable for you. It's about almost pressing pause for a specific amount of time, knowing, okay, this is an intentional pause to go, what do I want? And in my framework that I use in my coaching programs, just WHEL, the first part of that is why. And that links to what you're explaining there, Libby, with that clear vision and an emotional attachment to what you want, why you want that, how it's going to make you feel. Because again, like, when are we taught about that as young people? I don't know. I mean, my daughter's 17, so I can kind of confidently say at school they're not encouraging and inspiring kids to have this vision, maybe some ambition, although I don't think she's had a lot of that. She's at college now, and I still don't feel like they're being guided with how to think about life much broader. And it's just like, well, what do you want to be? And again, that becomes then your identity, doesn't it? So that's leading to where you get a job, and a bit like you, I fell into a career unintentionally because it was just, which job can I apply for? What can I do? And then it became, well, I'm here. What's next? How can I stay interested? How can I get more money? What can I do? And then realizing, shit, this is not the kind of thing I wanted, but now I'm in it. Like it's an lumped sort of thing. You've made your bed, just lie in it. But I think that step of actually thinking about what you want then can, as you said, start to shift your actions to become that person.
I don't remember. I mean, it's a long time since I was at school, but I don't remember through school or my 20s or anything, anyone saying, what is it that you want about anything? Just we're kind of on this treadmill of, you get your qualifications, you get your house, you get your partner, you've got your job, and it's just like, and sort of you think there's got to be more to life than that. And I don't mean burn it all down, go traveling for the rest of your life. I mean, that's one extreme. And obviously if that's the choice that you make, then that's great, good for you, kind of thing. But it's like, there's nothing wrong with having the house, having the partner, doing the kind of traditional way of living, but it's got to be conscious. And I don't think that a lot of the choices that we make, or that we're encouraged to make, certainly from school and, in our formative years, they're not conscious choices. They're just the choices you make. And exactly like you say, which job can I apply for? Which job can I do? Oh, this one's fine. It's not too far from where I live, or it pays all right, or whatever the criteria is. But it's never actually, what do I really want to do? And I wonder if kids now, they have slightly more awareness than we did, because of social media because they can see people doing very non-traditional jobs. I don't mean that they all want to be influencers, but there's, it's just like, oh, somebody's doing that. Right, you can make money out of doing that. And we didn't have any of, I didn't know anybody who ran a business until I was in my 20s, I don't think. I just didn't. So yeah, it's conscious choice. What do you really want? Be brave enough to just say it to yourself, if nothing else. And that will start the kind of chain reaction. Because once you've kind of said, do you know what I really want to just work 3 days a week because that will change my life. For example, it's a really simple thing. It's like, so if you start thinking that, then either you shape your business by reducing the contact hours with clients, or you find yourself getting into a conversation with your management team at work and proposing this stuff. It's once you've made a conscious decision, things start to happen. And I don't mean in a manifested way. I'm not a particularly woo person, but it's about this intentionality, which you said right at the start.
Yeah, I thought this as you were chatting earlier in the conversation, that ultimately what we're saying is about taking control back of yourself, of your life.
For sure.
And that's really at the core of what I do. And a lot of what I do ultimately links to your self-worth, because when you believe you are worth having an amazing life in whatever way that looks for you, you will make that happen. But again, I think we aren't taught about this stuff as we grow. I've tried as a parent to bring this into my family and, way of raising my daughter. But again, society, I'm not sure we're there yet. I think there has been a shift with the younger generation, but I'm worried it's almost a shift too far, in that many young people think it's going to be very easy to live, very easy to just make money online, very easy to get a YouTube channel or branded, sponsorship, whatever that might be. And we're missing perhaps some of that drive and integrity. Yeah, I think that maybe, and I'm generalizing here as well, but yeah, I think what you said there, I love that word, like the consciousness. And I think a lot of us are living life unconsciously. Those tens of thousands of thoughts we have a day are mainly in our subconscious mind, but that's still using our energy, fuel, taking up capacity of how we feel, isn't it? And I guess when you experience burnout in your journey, like, how was that for you with regard to, having the energy to think and then consciously choose what was going to have to happen next to be able to feel, I guess, just even well at that point?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't realise at the time, and I'd never heard of burnout. 2011 this was. I'd never heard of burnout. Yeah, it's difficult because I feel quite sad thinking about me back then, because fighting, and also being undiagnosed neurodivergent then too. I mean, you talk about however many thoughts it is. I have that a minute. My brain is just exhausting, and it's like there's always stuff to look at and to see. Even us recording this, I'm like, there's so many things I can look at on the screen, and it's just, that adds an extra level of energy to everything. So, burnout is, I mean, I was quite unwell. Like I say, I was really skinny, not in a positive way, I don't think. I was really skinny, and I was just so stressed and emotionally just, outbursts and crying and really kind of irrational behaviour, which I do now know is one of the kind of factors of autism and ADHD. So, I understand it all much more now. But I never had any empathy for myself. Never had any kind of self-kindness, and probably a bit of a lack of self-awareness as well. It was push all the time. And then when I hit this brick wall, because, they weren't doing what they were supposed to do, I just absolutely kind of lost my mind, because I can't get a solution. I'm a really solution-oriented person. There's always a solution for everything, right? Even if it's just one tiny step, there's always something that you can do. And there was nothing I could do. So I walked out. I just walked out. And I had this lovely management job. I had 7 weeks a year paid leave, plus bank holidays, plus a good pension because it's the public sector.
Good.
Plus, public sector's great, man. All of this, and I literally just walked out, and my then husband and I went to Thailand for 2 weeks, and I just said to him, I said, I'm not going back. And I never went back. That's madness, right? Because we had a mortgage, and I had nothing. And so I I met up with a few people who I knew had businesses because I worked with businesses in the college, and said, do you reckon I can make, and I remember really clearly, do you reckon I can make a couple of grand a month teaching people how to use social media? Because that's what I'd kind of been doing as part of my job in the college. And they said, yeah, sure. And I'm like, oh, brilliant. So that's how I started my business. The first month I invoiced £127, and I've never been happier about anything. And the rest is kind of history. The business has changed and morphed an awful lot over that. But really I was utterly desperate. I had to get out because I'd hit this brick wall. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't make logical sense of it. And I was going to go kaput completely. I see that now. I see how unwell I was. But at the time, no, you just keep going. Yeah.
So it sounds like when you'd experienced the burnout, left your job, decided to set up the business, it was still all very reactional. And
yeah,
it must have been beyond that. Was it because of becoming a business owner and perhaps getting into the space I know many of us occupy online with other entrepreneurs, that you began to connect with your identity and that intentionality and change some of your thinking and behaviours?
Yeah, it was not to start with, because when I first started the business, I mean, I was business savvy. Like I said, I'd worked with a lot of businesses. I'd done a lot of coaching and networking for businesses in my job, and I was just finishing up my MBA, so I'd done kind of a lot of the business focused stuff. But when I started the business, I joined an entrepreneurial community, and the thing that they said was build a team, grow £1 million business. And I was like, oh, build a team, grow £1 million business. This is how you run a business then. And so that was the path that I went on. And like I say, 10 years ago, though, I was like, doesn't make me happy. Not happy, not happy, not happy. So made the team redundant, which is awful, 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 and gave up the office and went back home. And it's been since then, in the last 10 years, that I've really focused much more on how do the intentionality, how do I want this to look, how do I want to feel. But I do think that since my diagnosis a couple of years ago, that's gone in absolute overdrive, and now I just kind of don't care how unconventional it is. It's like, I'm happy in myself. I help people much more deeply because I'm just more open, honest, understanding, better listener, all of these things. And everything's just really changed. But it takes a lot to kind of admit who you are, acknowledge who you are. Maybe admit's the wrong word, but acknowledge who you are and what you want, and how far away that is from your parents' hopes for you.
Let's blame the parents for all of this.
It's always down to the mother, always.
So I'd love to kind of wrap this up. I think you've given lots of inspiration and some specifics as we've chatted, but to help someone think about themselves, their life, where they're at and where they would like to be, and that ultimate happiness that we all want as much of as possible. What would be 3 steps you'd suggest somebody can take to help reduce that overthinking, that overwhelm, and perhaps conforming to all of those shoulds that we think we should do?
Okay. The first thing I would say is to be brutally honest with yourself. And you don't have to say any of this out loud. That can come, but decide what you want. Decide what you want in life, in business, in work, in relationships, whatever it is that is your sticking point. But decide absolutely what it is that you want. And that's number 1. Number 2 then is decide and make a list of daily non-negotiables that will get you to where you want to be. And they can be tiny little things. It could be just posting something on social media every day. It could be talking to someone who's in the right space that you want to be in, but whatever it is. But something that you can do every day that you know is going to get you to where you want to be in time. And then the third thing is to repeat, rinse, revise, repeat, and just keep doing that, and keep checking that where your dream, where you want to be, is still where you want to be, because it's probably not the same as it was 5 years ago. It's certainly not the same as where it was 10 years ago. And just keep doing those daily non-negotiables, keep putting the actions in place, and before you know it, you'll be so far ahead of where you are today that I hope that you take a step back and just take stock and go, I'm really proud of me, look what I've done.
Oh, that's brilliant. And if you are a regular listener, you'll know what Libby's just provided you with there is in perfect alignment with everything I'm always sharing about the clarity of where you want to get to, how it's going to make you feel, why that's important, and the consistency with small steps. I love that you called it out as those daily non-negotiables,
Mm.
because I think another thing, and funny, before we started recording this morning, I'd seen a clip on Instagram, which is from the series. The name's gone out of my head. It's the Apple series with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, where they're the
Oh, day is
TV
the
people.
what's it called?
Morning show, the morning
Morning
show,
show.
isn't
That's
it?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
that's it.
started watching it ages ago,
Yeah.
and then I don't watch a lot of TV, so I didn't get very far with it. But I'd seen this clip when I'd watched it actually, and it's where she basically tells her daughter to F it, but then she goes into this whole big rant. But the point of it being shared today was about how so many women don't allow themselves to be happy and don't give
Yeah.
themselves like space and time to do like what you said, even one daily non-negotiable, because we're just caught up in
Mhm.
unconscious thinking and behavior. So I think by just thinking of what's one thing you could do every day, that begins that intentional journey. And I always encourage people by saying that upward spiral kicks in so quickly the way a downward spiral does. If you've ever
Yep.
felt, which I'm sure many of us, or if not all of us, have experienced in one form or another. So the positive upward spiral is just as quick to grasp and take hold, and that's brilliant advice to help people create those sustainable healthy habits and way of life. Brilliant. So I love everything that you've shared, and if someone would like to find out more, as Libby said, she's got a brilliant podcast, so yeah, let everyone know where the best place to come and connect with you is.
Yeah, sure. My podcast is called Unstuck, and you can find it on all the podcast apps. My website is libbylangley.com. And if there's a freebie on there, actually, if anybody does want that, libbylangley.com/stuck, it'll help you unstick yourself in your business. And I'm Libby Langley all over all the socials. So yeah, come find me, say hi.
Fantastic. And I'll pop those links. I do have the link to Libby's freebie. So if you're listening to this thinking, yeah, this all sounds great, but I do just feel so stuck. I don't know what to do, because you can hear it, but when you do feel stuck, that first step can just feel like such a big step, can't it? So yeah, have a look at Libby's guide there, because that might give you just a little bit of extra oomph behind taking those initial steps to get moving. So thank you so much. I've really enjoyed chatting with this. Lots that I know people will be able to resonate and be inspired by.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.